They don't announce it on the news the way you'd expect. There's no breaking alert, no loud sirens. The biggest moves in money history usually happen quietly, in boardrooms, on balance sheets, in decisions most people won't understand until it's too late. While the world is busy scrolling, something shifts beneath the surface. And if you're paying attention, this moment can either scare you or set you free. I remember the first time I realized how the financial world really works. It wasn't through textbooks or headlines. It was through confusion, watching prices move in ways that made no sense, watching institutions get richer during chaos while ordinary people were told to stay calm and trust the system. That confusion slowly turned into curiosity. Curiosity turned into learning. And learning turned into a mindset shift that changed everything. Because once you understand that money is not about numbers, but about behavior, patience, and positioning, you stop being a victim of the system and start becoming a student of it. When you hear about massive players flipping positions worth hundreds of millions of ounces, it's not just a story about silver. It's a lesson about power, timing, and preparation. Big institutions don't move on emotion. They move on strategy. They think in decades, while most people think in days. And that's the first lesson for life and wealth. Stop reacting. Start positioning. The people who win are rarely the loudest. They are the calmest. They are the ones who prepare long before the crowd feels the pressure. Think about the investors who built real wealth, not overnight fame. Warren Buffett didn't rush. Ray Dalio studied cycles when others chased trends. Entrepreneurs who changed industries didn't wait for certainty. They waited for clarity. In life, just like in markets, clarity comes from understanding cycles. Fear, greed, expansion, contraction. These patterns repeat everywhere. In money, in business, even in your personal growth. When you recognize the cycle, you stop panicking at dips and stop celebrating peaks blindly. Here's the truth most people avoid. Volatility is not the enemy. Unpreparedness is. When systems shake, when rules suddenly change, when powerful players adjust their positions, that's not a signal to freeze. It's a signal to learn faster, to think independently, to build skills, assets, and discipline that cannot be taken away from you. Money follows confidence, but confidence only comes from competence. I've seen people with average income build extraordinary lives because they respected compounding. Not just financial compounding, but habit compounding. Reading every day while others complain, investing consistently while others wait for perfect timing, improving one skill at a time while others chase shortcuts. That same compounding principle applies whether you're buying assets, building a business, or building yourself. Small, disciplined actions done consistently will outperform dramatic moves driven by emotion. When large institutions make bold moves, it reminds us of another powerful lesson. Information favors the prepared mind. You may not have insider access, but you have something just as powerful: time, curiosity, and the ability to think long term. Smart investing isn't about copying the biggest players blindly. It's about understanding why they move, what risks they hedge, and how you can apply those principles at your own scale. Diversify, protect downside, stay liquid enough to seize opportunity, never put your entire future into one idea, one asset, or one bet. In life, betrayal often feels personal. In markets, it feels systemic, but both teach the same lesson. Never outsource your responsibility. Don't outsource your thinking. Don't outsource your future. The moment you decide to take ownership of your finances, your mindset, your education, you step into a different class of people. The kind who don't beg for stability, they build resilience. The kind who don't wait for permission, they prepare for possibility. Every successful investor and entrepreneur has faced moments where the narrative didn't match reality, where headlines said one thing and action said another. Those who succeeded learned to watch actions, not words. Follow the flow of capital. Follow discipline. Follow patience. In your own life, do the same. Don't listen to what you say you'll do someday. Watch what you do every day. That's where your future is being built. Here's a practical shift you can make starting now. Treat your finances like a business. Track cash flow. Reduce unnecessary debt. Allocate a portion of your income to long-term assets, not short-term pleasure. Study one asset class deeply instead of 10 shallowly. Build an emergency buffer so fear never forces bad decisions. These aren't glamorous steps, but they are the exact steps that create freedom. Freedom is quiet, it doesn't scream, it compounds. Another shift is mental. Stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. Markets don't move in straight lines, and neither do lives. Periods of stagnation often come right before breakthroughs. The people who quit are usually closer than they think. If you feel pressure, it means something is forming. If you feel uncertainty, it means you're standing at the edge of growth. Stay calm. Stay curious. Stay consistent. Cinematically, imagine this moment as a crossroads. One path is distraction, fear, and dependence. The other is education, patience, and ownership. One path leads to reacting forever. The other leads to positioning once and benefiting for years. You don't need to predict the future perfectly. You just need to be prepared enough to adapt when it arrives. The silver story, the billions, the flips, the quiet moves behind closed doors, they all point to a larger truth. Wealth is transferred from the impatient to the patient, from the emotional to the disciplined, from the distracted to the focused. And that transfer isn't just financial, it's mental, it's spiritual. It's about who controls their reactions when the world feels uncertain. So take this moment as a wake-up call, not a warning. A reminder that you are allowed to learn, allowed to question, allowed to build quietly while others argue loudly. Decide today that you will become harder to shake, smarter with risk, and calmer under pressure. Decide that you will play the long game in money and in life. If this perspective helped you see the bigger picture, take a second to support the channel by liking this video, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who needs clarity in a noisy world. The more we grow this community, the more we learn to think independently, invest wisely, and build futures that don't depend on headlines, but on discipline, patience, and purpose. They say the loudest moves in the market grab attention, but the truth is, the most significant shifts often happen quietly. The biggest players, the institutions controlling billions, they don't announce every decision in a press release or flash it on the evening news. They operate with patience, strategy, and timing that the average observer can hardly perceive. Understanding this is the first step toward building real wealth, not just financially, but mentally, emotionally, and strategically. Because when you start to see money as more than numbers, when you see it as a reflection of human behavior, cycles, and preparation, you begin to operate on a different level, reacting to headlines, to panic, to the fear and greed that consume most people will never get you ahead. Instead, you have to position yourself long before the world catches on, preparing quietly while others are distracted, impatient, or emotional. I remember a time when I thought that making money was about speed, about finding the next big trend before everyone else. I chased opportunities, bought assets impulsively, and often sold at the wrong time. It wasn't until I stepped back and studied the patterns, the cycles, and the behaviors of the most successful investors that I began to understand the difference between noise and signal. The world around you is full of distractions, opinions, and fleeting excitement. Meanwhile, the people who truly succeed in markets and in life are those who learn to wait, to observe, and to act deliberately. Warren Buffett didn't become the Oracle of Omaha by following headlines or reacting to daily market swings. He built wealth by understanding value, by respecting cycles, and by staying calm when chaos ruled the room. Cycles are everywhere, in markets, in business, in life. Fear and greed rise and fall. Expansions and contractions repeat. The patterns are often subtle, but they're consistent. When you recognize these cycles, you stop panicking during downturns and stop blindly celebrating peaks. You learn to see opportunity where others see crisis, and to prepare where others freeze. This awareness is part of positioning. It's about being ahead of the curve mentally, so that when a market move, a business opportunity, or a life challenge arrives, you are ready. You don't need to predict every twist and turn, but you do need to understand the forces at play, to recognize the signals, and to position yourself so you can act decisively when the moment comes. Preparation also means understanding risk and learning to manage it intelligently. The largest moves in history, whether in markets or business, are never reckless. They are calculated. Institutions flip positions worth hundreds of millions of ounces, not because they are reckless, but because they have studied patterns, hedged risk, and planned contingencies. Individuals who want to build wealth must adopt the same principle. It's not about gambling or following the hype. It's about understanding your exposure, controlling your losses, and having the courage to act when conditions favor you. That discipline, patience, and strategic thinking are what separates those who endure from those who falter. Observation, preparation, and patience are also powerful tools outside of finance. In life, the people who thrive are rarely the loudest, the fastest, or the most reactive. They're the ones who observe, learn, and position themselves for the long game. The quiet student who practices relentlessly, the entrepreneur who studies trends while others chase shortcuts, the individual who builds habits consistently, they all benefit from compounding over time. Just like financial wealth, personal and professional growth is rarely the result of impulsive moves. It is the product of deliberate, sustained effort, a calm mind, and strategic action. When you combine patience with understanding cycles and disciplined preparation, you create leverage over time. Every small, smart choice compounds into something much larger than what appears at first glance. You learn to move when the conditions favor you, to act with precision while others react with panic. You start to recognize that real power, whether in money, business, or life, comes not from reacting to the noise, but from mastering the signals, from learning the patterns, and from quietly positioning yourself for advantage. This mindset shift transforms how you approach opportunities and challenges. You stop chasing fleeting gains and start seeking meaningful, sustainable outcomes. You understand that true success is less about speed and more about timing, less about volume and more about strategy, less about emotion and more about disciplined observation and preparation. Over time, this approach compounds, creating freedom, control, and leverage in ways that most people will never experience, simply because they react instead of prepare, because they follow instead of position, and because they are guided by headlines instead of cycles and principles. True financial success is never just about numbers on a screen or the latest market trend. It begins with ownership of your mindset, your habits, and your actions. Many people look at wealth as something external, as if it can be handed to them through luck or circumstance. But the reality is that wealth is created internally first. Your thoughts, your discipline, and your ability to act consistently in alignment with your goals are what build the foundation for real financial freedom. Without this internal ownership, even the biggest opportunities can slip through your fingers, because preparation and mindset always matter more than chance. Habits compound, and they shape the outcomes of your life in ways that are often invisible in the moment. Small, deliberate actions taken every day, saving a portion of income, studying investment principles, improving skills, multiply over time to create significant results. Just as a river carves valleys slowly and steadily, your consistent choices carve the path to financial independence. The person who invests wisely, even in modest amounts, over decades, will almost always outpace someone chasing quick wins without understanding the fundamentals. This principle applies beyond money. Success in business, career, and personal growth follows the same law. Consistent, purposeful effort far outweighs sporadic bursts of energy and random luck. Another crucial element of financial and life success is long-term thinking. Most people operate with short-term horizons, reacting to immediate gains or losses and allowing emotions to dictate decisions. True investors, entrepreneurs, and high achievers think in decades. They anticipate cycles, risks, and opportunities before they appear on anyone's radar. They understand that setbacks are temporary and that resilience is cultivated by perspective and patience. When you start thinking in long-term increments, you stop panicking when markets fluctuate or when life throws challenges your way. You develop the ability to remain calm under pressure, to make decisions based on principle rather than impulse, and to act with clarity when opportunities align with your strategy. Emotional control is another pillar of financial success. Money decisions are not purely logical, they are deeply psychological. Fear, greed, impatience, and envy can destroy wealth as quickly as poor strategy. The ability to manage your emotions, to stay disciplined in the face of uncertainty, and to focus on what you can control is far more valuable than insider knowledge or luck. The most successful people often fail, sometimes publicly, but they succeed repeatedly because they treat setbacks as lessons, not tragedies. They view challenges as opportunities to learn, adapt, and grow, and they never allow temporary discomfort to derail their long-term vision. Ownership also means responsibility. When you take full accountability for your financial life, you stop blaming external circumstances and start creating solutions. You stop waiting for the perfect timing, the perfect advisor, or the perfect market condition, and instead focus on what you can do today to improve your position. You educate yourself, track your progress, adjust strategies when necessary, and remain consistent in execution. This mindset separates those who succeed from those who remain trapped in cycles of hope and disappointment. Learning from others is another important aspect. Look at the lives of successful investors and entrepreneurs. They didn't achieve greatness through shortcuts or luck alone. They studied patterns. They learned from mentors. They observed behaviors, and they applied lessons consistently. They understand that intelligence is not just about knowledge, but about action, transforming what they learn into habits and systems that produce results. In life and finance, it is this combination of insight, discipline, and execution that generates sustainable wealth and achievement. Finally, building wealth is inseparable from building character. Discipline, patience, resilience, and curiosity compound just like money. The person who develops these qualities becomes harder to shake by market volatility, personal setbacks, or societal pressures. They can make decisions calmly, act decisively, and remain aligned with their long-term goals. This internal foundation ensures that financial success is not fleeting, but durable, giving you freedom not only in money, but in life, mindset, and purpose.